Hello artists, wizards, and witches of watercolor. How have you spent this week? Today I bring you a detailed tutorial in which you will see step by step how to create this mini watercolor. And the secret key to this type of watercolors is the initial wash. You need to achieve a soft gradient with a progressive transition from one color to another, so pay close attention to the explanations. Well, let's start by preparing our paper, and you will see for this exercise we are going to start by soaking the entire paper. Okay, we take a mop brush, a large wash brush. In this case, the one I use is a brush from the Da Vinci Casaneo brand, series 498. And this one is actually made of synthetic hair, but it works wonderfully. It perfectly mimics squirrel hair, and it is super soft. It absorbs a lot of water. It works very well. I'm going to take the color Wisteria. Well, for those who don't know, I use the Daniel Smith brand. I take wisteria color with a bit of cadmium orange. And I add a tiny bit of cobalt blue and burnt sienna to break up that brightness. A bit, which I don't want for this sky I'm going to create. And look, we are going to make a gradient from top to bottom to create the background color base. This color transition should be very smooth, okay? That's why we have wet the entire paper, and now thanks to the magic of the brush, we are going to make the colors blend almost imperceptibly. Merge, do you see? From left to right, horizontally, very softly with the brush without fear, covering the entire surface. And now as I go down, we will make the changes in the color transitions. Now I just lighten the color a bit more with wisteria, a little bit more of Naples yellow as well, and you've seen with a touch more of cadmium red, as you have already seen. Now I give it that lower tone of the sky that will give us the brightness of a setting sun or a rising sun. And you will see I am going to reinforce the area on the right with that cadmium red. I will add a slightly more intense tone as if the light source were there, chewing here on the right, as if the sun is no longer in the sky. I am not going to create any light, no sun. The sun is as if it were still about to rise or has already set. Now, we are going to enter the part of the land. And I am going to mix green gold, which is one of my secret ingredients, with burnt sienna and cobalt blue. Do you see what I am doing as well? I don't know if it's noticeable, but I have the wooden board slightly tilted downwards. And to ensure the colors mix well, I am now tilting it a little upwards, okay? I am slightly raising the bottom a little so that the water flows slightly more towards the sky as well. If you notice in the lower area of the field, as always, we darken it a little. I have added a bit of burnt umber to the mixture, and in this way we achieve a bit more depth. Now I carefully and slowly return the board to its original tilt. And now, to continue, I need to dry it a little, okay, because I am going to make the clouds in the sky now. We are going to give a little more definition to the horizon line. I will add a bit more of the grass mixture. Look, now I am going to make just the combination for creating these mountains, but I will save it for later on, okay? I am mixing wisteria with gold-green color tones and ultramarine blue shades along with a pinch of burnt umber. Let's see here. I'll test a little bit of this sky's moisture content and check that it is precisely at just exactly right point where we can still be able to create clouds which will remain fluffy. For the clouds I will use wisteria, the purple of quinacridona, and a tiny bit of cadmium orange. And I have this gray that integrates very well with the tones of this watercolor and blends very well with the tones of the sky. And I keep doing. I often get fluffy and blended clouds due to the level of humidity. I do have to say that the paper is a bit drier on the edges than in the center, but well, even if there are some dry areas, it won't be a problem for me. We can add some touches with another brush to blend the watercolor a bit more. And you see, we are creating textures of clouds. Here, we are controlling. That's why I have placed the napkin here by my side, to be able to control the level of moisture in the brush and the amount of water and paint the brush carries. Because here we are now working in a very delicate area, we have to control it to the maximum. So, I am drying the brush a little of paint and water, because be careful what could happen to us. Depending on the moisture of the paper, we have to control that cauliflowers don't form. And here, I have already told you, yes, I am having areas a little drier almost, and there would be a risk of forming a bit of cauliflower. That's why we should go with the brush very loaded with water. Now we are going for the mountains on the left with the mixture I already had prepared. And look, if things like this happen to us, sometimes nothing happens, it's very easy to remove a bit of paint from a spot, okay? Especially if an area is already quite dry, as is the case here. I put a little bit of water on top and remove it with the napkin. And as you can see, that connection of the green area of the mountains, of these mountains, with the green area of the meadow is looking super cool. It's turning out soft and blurred because the meadow hasn't dried completely yet. The sky was already a bit drier, and as I told you on the sides, it is quite dry, but the meadow, as we placed it at the end, still retains a little bit of moisture, just this level of moisture that I have now. As you can see, I am always a fan of adding brightness with my fingernail, as many other artists do. I think it's great to use my fingernail for painting as well. And well, here is our creativity. Remember to also break the mountains, okay? Don't make the mountains cut out, because it doesn't look natural. It looks very artificial. And look, for the area on the right, I am not going to make such marked mountains to provide contrast and variety. And as you can see, I take a bit of the paint I have on the palette, which is a bit lighter than the mountains on the left. And I am making some small mountains now that are quite distant, therefore smaller. And so, with a color that is not so bright, not so strong, since they are further away. And as you always see, broken mountain. You will see I already have the background, and now I take my toothbrush. Obviously it is not the one I use daily. Do not take the one you use. You take a separate one and we take paint. With this napkin, I cover the area that I don't want to get stained. And we start to splatter, the splattering technique with the toothbrush. Look, after splattering, I move the napkin a little bit upwards. Why do I do that? Because otherwise it would leave a very marked, very artificial line, and it wouldn't be noticeable that I made a mark. The limit is a bit more spread out. It's as if I want to blur my splatters with the meadow. I don't want the line to be noticeable. And well, now we have these splatters from the field that would be like little flowers, textures, okay? And now with the mixture I already had, which I made with the brush, I simply added some quinacridone purple to the mixture of the green mountains. So I take a bit of that tone, which is the same one I used to splatter, and I add a few more touches to the meadow. And now, yes, I finished drawing. Okay, like, to be able to add the two final touches, what are they going to be? What are they going to be? Look, I add a little carmine and a bit more quinacridone purple. I'm looking for a bit of balance in the mix, the tone I want, which is more leaning towards carmine. Okay, you see in the mix, the carmine has gained a bit. And now I'm going to make two little trees here that would be the focal point of the landscape. As always, they shouldn't be cut off. You see, I'm making broken shapes. I'm also making a bit of a base. Let's see, I'm going to make them a little bigger. Later you have to see what works best in your watercolor, what proportions.